All right, guys, here's your first prep for our test. So what I want you to have open for this prep is I want you to go to Chapter 13 PowerPoints. I'm going to go over the slides the same way as I would if we were in class. I'm going to go over some key points and things that you should be paying attention to and types of questions that are going to be asked of you when it comes to this chapter. I'm going to break them up into chapters 13 and 14. 14 would be a lot longer than this one is concerned because chapter 13 is only 5 slides long. So the first thing I want to talk about is when you open up your chapter 13 slides, you'll see that it's 5 slides. Start at the very first one, which talks about stock dividends. Now, everything on these slides is fair game for me to ask you. Okay, so chances are, I told you even before we were remotely learning, when we did chapter 13, I told you that I wanted you to know at least 2 of those items in the very first slide talking about why a company would give a stock dividend. Well, you can see there it has the 4 items that you can put. Conserves cash, lowers the market price, allows for non-taxable distribution, and then the last one, which increases the company's permanent capital structure, which just makes taking money out of retained earnings and changing it over to common stock or the contributed capital account. So that's the reasons behind it. I don't really am going to waste too much time talking about that because any question that I give you about that, you could just quickly look back at your slides and get the answer for that. Move on to the second question. Now, this is important for you to pay attention to. This is the journal entries for the stock dividends. Now, keep in mind, we had a lecture that showed you how to do these stock dividends step by step, and then I went ahead and I posted a video which gave you guys the answers. Now, questions that I could give you like this, I could actually ask you to look at the following choices and tell me which of the journal entries that you see is correct. I could ask you to tell me how many new shares are being issued. Everything is fair game when it comes to an open book test. Now, just quickly going over the journal entries, I could ask you about the 3 key dates. Every dividend, whether it's a cash dividend or a stock dividend, has the 3 dates associated with it. So you've got your declaration date, your issue or your record date, and your payment date. I could simply ask you a question that says, the record date is the only one that does not have a journal entry, true or false? Well, you guys should be able to follow along and figure these questions out. Now, I want you to take a look at the declaration date in particular. If you see there, your first account that you're going to debit is called a stock dividend. Do not write the word dividends. If I ask you to write down a journal entry, then I expect you to write down the proper journal entry, the proper account names, okay? Stock dividend. How do we go about finding the amount of the stock dividend? Well, I did tell you that you take the number of shares that are outstanding and you multiply by the percentage. That first calculation, you do 2. The first calculation, when you do that, outstanding times the percentage, is going to give you the number of new shares that have to be issued. Then you're going to multiply that by the market price. Now keep in mind, you have the responsibility of finding the outstanding shares. It may be given to you, it may not be. I may just simply ask you for a number. So you really need to pay close attention to what I'm asking you for. The second part of the stock dividends question is the common stock distributable. That account is your new liability account. That's the one that says you owe somebody something. In this case, you owe them common stock, which is what you are going to be giving them on your payment date. The way you figure that amount, again, is the number of new shares, which is your first calculation you did up above, times the par value. The last thing you need to do, like we have spoke about before, every journal has to do what? And hopefully every single one of you guys said balance or equal. So the way you find the additional paid in capital is just by figuring out the difference and making your journal entry balance, which would cause you to have a credit to the additional paid in capital account. Again, the record date. there is no journal entry for the record date. You write the words, no entry. Payment date, very, very simple. You get rid of your common stock distributable by debiting it, and then your credit is going to be to the account called common stock. Now, you remember, you are debiting common stock because you are physically giving people common stock. You're not giving them cash. That's the whole purpose of a stock dividend. Okay? Now, for example questions, follow along with the practice problems I gave you for this. This is not a difficult topic. I gave you a bunch of practice problems, and I believe I actually put up the answer to one of them. If you have any questions, please email me about it, but follow along, okay? The third slide talks about a stock split. Now, stock splits are the easiest thing because there's no journal entries associated with it. The key to a stock split are two things happen. Your par value goes down, and the number of new shares goes up. So what I really need you to pay attention to is, I may ask you just in plain Jane terms, what are the two things that happens with a stock split? The examples that I give you is if you go to a bank with a $100 bill and you want to split it 5 ways, the bank is going to hand you 5 $20 bills. The key here is that those 5 $20 bills still add up to $100. If you have a $100 bill and you do a 2-for-1 split, you would end up with 2 $50 bills. It still gives you $100. You just have more paper to associate it with it. So if you go down and look at the example, which is slide number 5, please pay attention to this. What I would normally have given you would be the paragraph that you see up at the top, and you would be required to complete the box at the bottom. Now, if you take a look at the top box, it says at the very top, before the stock split. A couple of things I want you to pay attention to. If you look at the total stockholder equity amounts, they are $57,600,000. Do they change from before and after? No, the amounts are exactly the same. Take a look at the common stock line. It says common stock, $12 par value. That's before the stock split. You can see that's in the narrative of the question. It declared a 3-for-1 split. So 12 divided by 3 gives you 4, which is your new par value, which you can see down after the stock split. Now look at the other item that happens. Now par value goes down and the number of shares do what? Hopefully you're saying they go up. So if you look at before the stock split, it said you have 800,000 shares issued and outstanding. Well, if you're giving 3 shares to every one, if you take 800,000 times 3, you should come out to the 2.4 shares that you see down here. Notice that the values in the right-hand column do not change. Okay? So the question that I'm going to ask of you when it comes to a stock split is I may just give you a paragraph and I'll have you figure out the values or the totals or what some of the new information is going to be. Now keep in mind, if all I'm giving you is that paragraph and I say to you, what is the value of the common stock, meaning the total value, I want you to tell me that, for instance, if you look at the before the stock split box, the total value of common stock here is $9.6 million. You should know how to get every one of these values in the right-hand column. Now, the $9.6 million is pretty easy because all you need to do is take 800,000 shares times the par value. Or, in other words, outstanding times par. Take a look at the after the stock split. If you take the outstanding shares times the par value, do you come up to 9.6 million? Yes, you should. Additional paid-in capital is the number that's given to you in the paragraph. The next line, contributed capital, is the two numbers added together. Retained earnings is another number that's given to you in the paragraph. So I want you guys to be able to find these numbers. If I give you a narrative like you see on your slide, you should be able to tell me any of the numbers associated with this. Okay? I may just ask you for the number of new shares that are issued and outstanding after a certain split. Now, maybe some of the things that I would do is just change the 3-for-1 to a 2-to-1, 4 to 1. It all depends on the question. But you have to make sure that you pay attention and read that. Okay? So as far as that's concerned, please follow the practice problems I gave you so that you can prepare for this section of the exam. So I'm going to sign off here, and I'm going to go ahead and record the Chapter 14 lecture prep for your exam. So keep that in mind.